second quarter of pregnancy. So I have switched to fiction book. The fiction I'm reading right now is Homecoming by Yasi. So, reading on. Essie, the smell was unbearable. In the corner, a woman was crying so hard it said her bones would break from her convulsions. This was what the woman felt. The baby had missed itself, and after its mother had no name. She was naked, save the small scrap of fabric the traders had given her to wipe her nose when they did. But they had miscalculated. No food for elderly, no food for baby. The baby would cry some, but the sound would be absorbed by the mud walls, subsumed into the cries of the hundreds of women who surrounded it. Essie had been in the living dungeon of the Cape Coast Castle for 2 weeks. She spent her 15th birthday day. On her 14th birthday, she was in the 8th Art of Santalan in Father's Business Compound. He was the best warrior in the village, so everyone had come to pay their respects to the daughter who grew more beautiful with each passing day. Quasimodo brought 60 yams, more yams than any other suitor had ever brought before. Essie would have married in the summer when the sun stretched long and high, when the countries could be tapped for wine. Guided by the spies children, their arms holding the trunk in the oil as they shined to the top to pluck the fruits that waited with. When she wanted to forget the person, she thought of these things, but she did not expect joy. Hell was a place of reminder. Each beautiful moment passed through one's eye until it fell to the ground like a rotten manhole, perfectly uselessly perfect. The soldier came into the dungeon and began to speak. He had to hold his nose to keep from bloating. The women did not understand him. His voice didn't seem angry, but they had learned to back away at the sight of that uniform. And the scream of that scream the order of the meat. The soldier repeated himself louder this time, as though volume would close understanding. Irritated, he ventured further into the room. He stepped in faces and paused. He plucked the baby from her first rabbit arm, and after began to cry. He slapped her and she stopped, erasing her face. Francis sat next to Essie. The two had laid the joint of the castle together. Now that they weren't talking or happy or speaking in hushed tones, Essie had time to get to know her German friend. Francie was a hardy and ugly woman, barely turned 16. She was thick, her body built on a solid foundation. Essie hoped and dared to hope that they would be allowed to stay together even longer. Where are they taking the baby? Essie asked. Francis spit onto the clay floor and swelled its spittle with her finger, creating a sound. They will kill it and shot, she said. The baby was conceived before Afra's marriage ceremony. As punishment, the village chief had sold her to the traders. After I told Essie this when she first came into the country. When she was so certain that a mistake had been made, that appearance would return for her. Now, hearing Francis speak, Alpha resumed applying, but it was as though no one heard. These tears were a matter of routine. They came for all of the women. They dropped onto the clay below them turned to mud. At night, Essie dreamed that if they all cried unison, the mud would come to the river and they would wash away into the Atlantic. Fancy, tell a story, please, Essie begged. But then they were interrupted again. The soldiers came in with the same bushy courage that had been fed to them in the country village where Essie was held. Essie applied to swallow it down without them. It was the only food they ever received, and their stomachs were empty more days than full. The porridge passed right through our eating. The ground was bitter to their waist, the unbearable smell. Ha, they are too old for stories, my sister, Francis said once the soldiers left. But Essie knew she would give in soon. Francis enjoyed the sound of her own voice. She put Essie into her lap and began playing with her hair, pulling at the strands that had been caked with dust, so brittle that they could be broken, each one snapped into two. Do you know the story of the painted clothes? Nancy asked. Essie had had it numerous times, twice when Nancy herself, but she shook her head. Asking if the story had been heard before was part of the story itself. Nancy began to tell her to a Asante man went out into the forest one day. They were weavers by trade and they had gone out to hunt for meat. When they got to the forest to collect their traps, they were met by Anansi, the mischievous spider. It was spinning the magnificent web. They washed in, studied in, and soon realized that the spider's web is a unique and beautiful thing, and that the spider's technique is flawless. They went home and decided to read clothes below Anansi reached his web. From that, Quincy was born. You are a fine storyteller, Quincy said. Tessa laughed and smoothed the salve she had taken into her knees and elbows to suit the cracked skin hair. The last story she had told Essie was of how she had been captured by the Netherlands. Plucked from a married girl while her husband was out fighting in Europe. She had been taken with a few other girls, but the rest had not survived. By morning, after had died, her skin was purple and blue, and Essie knew she had held her breath until Nano took her. They would all be punished for this. The soldiers came in, though Essie was no longer able to tell what time. The mud walls of the dungeon made all pancake them. There was no sunlight. Darkness was day and night and everything in between. Sometimes there were so many bodies stacked into the women's dungeon that we all had to lie stomach down so that women could be stacked on top of them. It was one of those days. Essie was kicked to the ground by one of the soldiers. His foot at the base of her head so that she couldn't turn her head to break anything but dust and get tears from the ground. The new women were brought in and some were laid so hard that the soldiers smacked them unconscious. They were piled on top of the other women, their bodies dead weight. When the smart ones came to the women's face, Essie could feel the woman on top of her knee. The ring traveled between both of their legs. Essie learned to split her life into before the castle and now. Before the castle, she was the daughter of big man and his third wife, Mami. Now she was dust. Before the castle, she was a prettiest girl in the village. Now she was thin air. Essie was born in a small village with the air of assassination. Big man had thrown an outgoing feast that lasted 4 nights. 5 days were slaughtered and boiled until their top skin turned tender. It was rumored that Mami's mystifying or praising the yammy for the entire duration of the ceremony. Nor would she set with the Essie down. No, it never knew what could happen, she kept repeating. At that time, Big Man was known only as Kwame Asare. Essie's father was not a chief, but he commanded just as much respect, for he was the best warrior the Asante nation had ever seen. And at age 25, he already had 5 wives and 10 children. Everyone in the village knew the seed was strong. His sons, still toddlers and young children, were already top wrestlers and daughters of beauties. As it grew in bliss, the villagers called her right mango because she was just on the right side of spoiled, so sweet. There was nothing her parents could refuse her. Even a strong warrior of the father had been known to carry her through the village at night when she couldn't sleep. Essie would hold the tip of his finger to her, as thick as a branch, as she carried past the earth that made up each compound. Our village was small but growing steadily. In the first year of their war, the children played for 20 minutes to reach the forest edge that cut them off from the rest of Asante land. But that forest had been pushed further and further back until by the fifth year, the journey there took nearly an hour. Essie loved walking to the forest with her father. She would listen, enraptured, as he told her how the forest was so dense it was like a shield. Impenetrable to her enemies, he would tell her how he and the other warriors knew the forest better than they knew the minds of their own clans. And this was good. Following the lines of a palm would lead nowhere. But the forest led the warriors to other villages that they could conquer to build up their strength. When you are old enough, he said, you would learn how to climb these trees with nothing but your bare hands. He said to her as they walked back to the village one day. It looked up. The top of the trees looked as though they were brushing the sky, and Issy wondered why leaves were green instead of blue. When Issy was 7 years old, her father won the battle that would end in the name Big Man. There had been rumors that in the village just north of Black, warriors had come back with splendors of gold and women. They had even raided the British storehouse, earning gunpowder and muskets in the process. Chief Nuro, the leader of Essex village, called a meeting of all the able-bodied men. Having heard the news, the captain and the young girl slammed their fists against the high earth and cried out, the swine of the northern village are walking about their kings. All around Asante people will say, it is the northerners who stole guns from the British. It is the northerners who are the conspiracy warriors in all of the Gold Coast. The next stomped their feet and shook their heads. Will we allow this? The chief asked. No, they cried. Kwaku Hagei, the most sensible among them, pushed their cries and said, listen to us. We may go to fight the northerners, but what are they? Movements, to gunpowder. And what will we gain? So many people will really place our enemies in the north. But we need not still do us as well. We have been stranded in this village for decades. No one has been able to break through the forest and challenge us. So will you have us wait until the northern snake slippers its way into our fields and steals our meat? Essie fathers asked, the two men stood on opposite sides of the room, and all the other men stood between them, turning their heads from one to the other in order to see which gifts will win, wisdom or strength. I only see letters that will take us to. Lest we appear weak in the process. But what is weak? Esse's father asked. He pointed to Nana Kade, then Kojonia Pom, then Babina Biana. Who among us is weak? You? Or maybe you? The men shook their heads one by one, and soon they were all shaking their entire bodies into a rallying cry that could be heard throughout the village. From the compound where Essie stood with helping umbrella for plantain, she had them and dropped the slices of plantain so quickly that oil jumped up and splashed her mother's leg. Hi! Her mother cried out, wiping the oil away with her hands and blowing on the ground. Stupid girl, when will you learn to be careful around fire? Nanny asked. Essie had had another savings or something like this many times before. Mommy was terrified of fire. Be careful of fire. Know when to use it and when to stay cool. She would often say. It was an accident. Essie snapped. She wanted to be outside, catching more of the warriors' discussion. Her mother reached over and knocked her. Who are you talking to that way? Eve, think before you act. Think before you speak. Essie apologized to her mother and Nanny, who had never been able to stay near the person for longer than a few seconds. Kissed the top of her head as the men's cries grew louder and louder. Everyone in the village knew the story. Essie had a father tell it to her every night for a whole month. She would lie with her head in his lap, listening as he spoke of how the men flew out from the other village in the evening of the running cry. Their plan was to overtake the farm and steal over at the story. Essie's father told her of how he led the group through the forest until he came upon the circle of warriors, protecting the newly acquired goods. Her father and his warriors hid in the trees. Their feet moved with the lightness of breeze on the forest ground when they came upon the warriors of the northern village. They fought bravely, but it was of no use. Essie's father and many others were captured and packed into boats that had been converted into the prison camp. It was Sparkle again and his few followers who had had the foresight to wait in the forest until after the eager warriors had rushed in. They found the gun that the warriors were hiding and loaded them quickly and quietly before moving into where their fellow men were being held captive. Though they were only a few of them, Papu Age and Igwe were able to hold off the warriors with stories we told of the many men they had waiting behind them. Papu Age said that if this mission failed, there would be one wave every night until the end of time. If it isn't the west, it will be the light. In reason, darkness waiting on the gap between his frontiers. The Netherlands felt they had no choice but to break in. They released Essie's father and the others, who parted with 5 of the stolen guns. The men returned to their village in silence. Essie's father's consumed by his embarrassment. When they reached the edge of their village, he stopped Papu Age, got down on both of his knees and bowed his head before him. I am sorry, my brother. I will never again rush into the fight if it is possible to reason. It takes a big man to address his foe, Papu Age said, and they all continued into the village. The contract and newly Christian big man leading the way. This was the big man who returned to Essie, the one she knew as she grew older. Slow to anger, rational, and still the strongest and bravest warrior of them all. By the time Essie turned 12, their small village had no more than 55 boys under the leader's leadership. The spoils of this world will be seen as the warriors carried them back, shimmering gold and colorful textiles in large Texas, attics in iron cages. It was the prisoners that fascinated Essie the most. For after each capture, they would be put on display in the center of the village square. Anyone could walk by and stare at them, mostly young, virile warriors, girls sometimes women and their children. Some of these prisoners would be taken by the villagers as slaves. Houseboys and housemates, cooks and cleaners were soon there would be too many to keep and the overflow would have to be dealt with. Mama, what happens to all the prisoners after they leave here? Essie asked Mommy as they passed by the square one afternoon. A rope brought their dinner, trailing behind them. That boy thought, Essie. You don't need to think about it. Her mother replied, shifting her eyes. For as long as Essie could remember, and perhaps even before, Mommy had refused to treat her own house girl or house baby among the prisoners who were paraded through the village each month. But because there were now so many prisoners, big man had started to insist. The house girl would awkwardly quickly be said, Essie also needs to be. But Essie is very different, not a common girl to whoever the world. Essie smiled. She loved her mother, but she knew how lucky Mommy was to have gotten a husband like the big man when she had no family who had long to speak of. Big man had seen Mommy somehow. From what Russia next Essie behind me. She knew only that her mother would do almost everything for her father. All right, she said. Essie and I will choose a girl tomorrow. And so they chose a girl and decided to call her Abdulina into gold. The girl had the darkest skin Essie had ever seen. She got her eyes blue and though her tea was massively, she rarely spoke it. She didn't know her age, but Essie guessed Abdulina was not much older than she was. At first, Abdulina was already at the church. She spoke all, she didn't speak all that but I found the testimony to which was go and get me a switch. The switch in question was based on two weeks tied together. It was older than Esse's original grandfather. Having been passed down from generation to generation, Big Man had never eaten a solitude, but she had seen it with his son. She had had no it whistle when it snapped back off of flesh. Essence moved to enter the compound, and Mommy stopped and no, she said. Big Man raised his hand to his wife, anger flashing quickly through his eyes like steam from cold water eating the earth and no. Mommy stammered, I just think that I should be the one to do it. Big Man lowered his hand, he stared at her carefully for a while longer, and Essence tried to read the look apart between them. So be it. But tomorrow I will bring her out here. She will carry water from this yard to that tree. And even if so much as a job for us, then I will take care of it. Mommy nodded, and Big Man shook his head. He had always told everyone who was that he had spoiled his whole life, seduced by a beautiful face and softened by her soft eyes. Mommy and Essie went into their hut and found a woman curled up on a bamboo cot, giving up to her name of a little bed. Mommy woke her up and Ella stand before them. She pulled out the switch that Big Man had given her, a switch she had never used. She then looked at Essie with tears in her eyes. Please wake up. Essie left the hut, and for minutes she could hear the sound of the switch and the harmonizing pitch of two separate cries. The next day, Big Man called everyone in his compound to see if a woman could carry a bucket of water on her head from the yard to the tree without spilling a drop. Essie and her whole family, her four stepbrothers and 9 children, scattered around the large river, waiting for the girl to first fetch water from the stream into a large black bucket. From there, Big Man had us stand before all of them and bowed before starting the journey to the train. He would walk beside her to be certain there was no error. Essie could see little girl checking and she lifted the bucket onto her head. Mommy clutched Essie against her chest and smiled at the girl when she bowed again. But the look of the normal return was fearful and then different. When the bucket touched her head, the family began to jeer. She would never make it and now, Big Man's face to herself. Watch, she will spin it all and down herself in the process. The joke the eldest son said. Little girl took her first step and let it get out the breath she had been holding. She herself had never been able to carry so much as a simple plank of wood on her head. But she had watched her mother carry a perfectly round coconut without it ever running up, standing at the second egg. Where did you learn to do that? Essie had asked Mommy then, and the woman replied, you can learn anything when you have to learn it. You could learn to fly if it's meant to relieve another dream. Abdullah studied her legs and kept walking. Her head facing forward. Big Man walked beside her, whispering insults in her ear. She reached the tree at the forest edge and pivoted, making her way back to the audience that I was very by the time she got close enough that Essie could make out her features again. There was sweat dripping off the ledge of her nose and her eyes were brimming with tears. Even the bucket on her head seemed to be crying. Condensation working its way down the outside of it. As she lifted her bucket off her head, she started to smile confidently. Maybe it was a small burst of wind, maybe a case of looking for a rat, or maybe the dope and slip, but before the bucket reached the ground, 2 drops rushed out. Essie looked at Mommy who had turned and sad feeling eyes to Big Man, but by that point the rest of the family were already shouting for punishment. Kojo began to lead them into the sun. The girl that still was all wanted to look at soda or the fruit. Big Man reached for his sweet and soon the sun gave his own accompaniment. The percussion of wind to flesh, the woodwind of brick to end. This time, Abdullah did not cry. If he didn't eat her, everyone would think he was weak, Essie said. After the event, Mommy had been inconsolable, crying to Essie that Big Man should not have beaten me today for so little a mistake. Essie was looking sick of her fulfillment, her lips pink orange. Our mother had taken Abelina into their hut and made a salve for our wounds. And now the girl lay on the cot sleeping. Eat, eh? Mary said she blared at her local missionary that Essie had never seen before saying, yes, Essie raped her sister, that I should live to hear my own daughter speak like this. You want to know what weakness is. Weakness is treating someone and they belong to you. Strength is knowing that everyone belongs to themselves. Essie was off. She had always said what everyone else in the village would have said, and this mommy there at home. Essie wanted to cry to all of her something, but mommy left the room there to finish the show and did not lock her one night. Just as she left, little dog began to stir. Essie fetched her water and held it in her head down so that she could drink it. The wound on her back was still fresh, and the sound of it as the leaves stand of the forest. Essie wiped the fire for a grandma used her finger, and the dog pushed her away. Evening, she said, and I'm sorry for what happened. He's a good man. Abelina's pretended to play is not of harm. The father is a big man, eh? She asked, and Essie nodded. Proud, guess that what she had just seen her father do. The dog let out a necklace blood. My father too is big man, and now look at him and her. Look at what your mother was. What my mother was. Little girl's eyes shot toward Essie. He don't know. Essie, who had not spent more than an hour away from her mother's side in her life, couldn't imagine any secrets. She knew the fear of her and the smell of her. She knew how many colors were in her irises, and she knew each broken truth. Essie looked at Abelina, but Abelina shook her head and continued her laugh. Your mother was once a lady for a family. She was great with her master because he too was a big man and he went and do all the things. Lest he appeared with faith. Essie looked away and Abelina continued in a whisper. You are not a daughter. There was one before you. And in my village, we have a saying we have separated sisters. We are like a woman and a reflection. Doomed to stay on opposite sides of the storm. I also wanted to learn, but there was no time to ask for good. Mommy came back into the room and said to get sitting beside each other. They said, come here and let Abelina sleep. Tomorrow you will wake up early and talk with him. Essie left Abelina to other parents. She looked at her mother, the way her shoulders always seemed to go, the way her eyes were always shifting. Suddenly, Essie was filled with a horrible shame. She remembered the first time she had seen an elder speak in the captives in the town square. The man had said, Northerners, they are not even people. They are the deaths that begs to speak. Essie was 5 years old then. His blood felt aggressive. And the next time she passed, she timidly gathered her own sticks and launched it at the little boy who stood holding with his mother. The boy had cried out, quickly remembered that Essie didn't understand. And Essie had felt bad, not for having to but for knowing how angry her mother would have been to see her do this. Now all Essie could picture was her own mother. Behind the doorwater of the cages, her own mother, other with a sister she would never know. In the months that followed, Essie tried to befriend Abelina. Her heart had started to ache for the little girl who had not perfected her role as a house girl. Since the beating, no crumb was dropped, no water spilled. In the evenings, after Abelina's work was done, and Essie would try to post my information from her about her mother's class. I don't know anymore. Abelina said, taking the bottle of brown bandage to save the floor, or straining used oil through leaves. In the evening, after Abelina's work was done, Essie would try to post more information from her about her mother's class. I don't know anymore, Abelina said, taking the bundle of palm branches to seal the floor, or straining used through leaves. Don't worry me, she screamed once she has used the iPhone and knees. Still, Essie tried to make amends. What can I do? She asked. What can I do? After weeks of asking, Essie finally received an answer, saying the words to my father. Abelina said, tell him where I am. Tell him where I am and there will be no bad luck between us. That night, Essie could go to sleep. She wanted to make peace with Abelina. When my parents knew what she had been asked to do, surely there would be a war in her heart. She would get her father now, then her family, then that she was raising Essie to be a small woman and thick. On the floor of the hut, Essie turned and turned and turned until finally another shoe pushed her. Please, mommy said, I'm tired. And honestly perceived me that great away was her mother as outdoor. Essie decided that she would sleep the next day. Early from village to village, messenger man to messenger man. No native essence message would ever with abnormal fire. It would be dropped or forgotten, altered or lost, but at the very least, able to say that she had done it. When she got back, Abnormal was the only person left away. Let's tell her what she had done that morning. And the girl clapped her hands together and then gathered it into her small hand, squeezing onto Issa's breast spots. All is forgotten. Issa asked, once the day by the waistband. Everything is equal. Abnormal said, and we live for through Issa's blood and blood. It's still as in the brain and left her fingers shaking. She hugged Abnormal back, and as the girl's body relaxed in her hand, Issa let herself imagine that the body was hugging was her sister's. Once went by, and beauty girl feel excited. In the evenings, she could be found facing the ground and watching to herself before sleep, and cried and her father is coming. Big man eyed her motions and told everyone to beware of her affectionate approach. Esther will watch her carefully for saving, but every day it was the same thing. My father is coming, I know it is coming. Finally, Big Man promised to slap the boys out of blow if she continued, and so she stopped, and the family soon forgot. Everyone went along as usual. Esse's day had never been challenged in Ess's time. All fighting was done away from home. Big Man and the other warriors would go into nearby villages, pillaging the land, sometimes setting the grass on fire, so that people from those villages over could see the smoke and know the warriors had come. But this time things were different. It began while the family was sleeping. It was Big Man's night in her niece, so Essie had to sleep on the ground in the corner. When she had the in the closing gate, she turned to face the wall of the earth. Once, just once, she had watched them in the night. The darkness helping to cover her curiosity. Her father was holding into her mother's body, moving something at first and then with more force. She couldn't say what there was the sound of that interested her. The sounds of creating together, sounds that walked in ten and between children and pain. Essie both wanted and was afraid to know, so she never watched again. That night, once everyone was in front of them before went out, everyone in the village had grown to look up, knowing with what each sound signified. So long years meant the end was large of, yet clear pictures meant they were upon them. Hearing the tree, Big Man jumped from the bed and dragged the machete stored under each of his wife's coats. That night, once everyone in the house would come back. Essie did what her father had taught her, grabbing the small key. We take Essie and go into the room. We screamed at me before running from the earth. We took it as well as the same. Sat at the edge of the cross. Come on, Essie said, but our mother didn't know. Essie rushed to bed and shook her, but she still didn't know. I can't think baby, she was going to do what they did. Essie asked, but she was hardly listening, and the mother was passing through out so they could not tremble, but only because of the message she had seen. Outside, people were screaming and running, then were crying. This mother grabbed Essie's hand and dropped something into it. It was a black stone, grainy with gold, smooth as if it had been scrubbed carefully for years to preserve its perfect surface. I had been clean this for the rest. I wanted to give it to you in a wedding gift, and I left more like this for your sister. I left it for back after I set it right. My sister said, so what I was not saying was true. My main Bible message was she had never spoken before. Sister, Baba, fire, sister, Baba, fire. I still wanted to ask more questions, but the noise outside was really loud, and another side was really loud. Empty good somehow or something. My sister had a mother there, and as though she was saying after the custom, Mommy was not the only woman. They were glad to show up at the spirit meeting. And no matter how much she loved us, no matter how much she said that they both knew in her and not from their request money and loss. And kissing him to their mother would be rather than running to the woods ever I do. Die before capture. Die if they have made that and never answer to the name of no sense of love. Then what is meant to be an old people. Mommy said as we sit close at that time, try to move our legs. No, she would be there. As she stopped and turned the black stone to her wrapper, she hugged her mother to the neck and started to her mother's arm and arm. She wished they was quickly and found the country that house could manage. She had been practicing what ladies was for this. She wrapped her arms around the strong, only 8 iron arrows to push her up as far as she would go. The moon was full, as large as the world of terror that was sitting in Esse's birth. What had she ever known of terror? Time passed and passed. Essie felt like an animal exactly fire at this bell of the tree, so badly were they born. The dark shadows of the leaves on the ground asking to live in night. Soon the sun was swimming through falling on the trees that dropped through to the island around them, and then a warrior was walking in that tree. His language was not familiar, but she knew anything was in there. The tree lay like that, there was no one around them. The first just smiled into us, and then still she heard it. The 58 glasses were apart from her, apart from her, and she thought to the ground. She was tied to others, how many she didn't know. She didn't see anyone from her compound. Just as if mothers come and see her. Not her mother. They looked around her waist, down and bounced out in supplication. Mrs. Curry is reminding of this man, who lived moving. She had never felt so hopeless in her life. Everywhere he walked, Lucy had walked for miles, living with her father before and such close to people. And indeed, the first few days they went to her. There were pains, the crisis of Mrs. Smith's open and blood seeped out, painting the mist remained there. Ahead of her, a very mist of others, too many requirements and difficult to hear where the warriors go. But she wouldn't have understood them anyway. When she could, she checked to see if between Anna and Dana was still safely kept in her wrapper. She didn't think how they were allowed to keep their place. The leaves on the forest ground were so damp with blood and sweat and blood that the child would have easy sleep and dream. One of the warriors fought in every stand and moved to their temple. Why she didn't say anything, they had moved the place of power. The woman decided to make the decision. Maybe it was his cat. The right name, that is when his sister said. She said to like him back from his shoulders and look make people trust and go to sleep. No. As he cried, one of the humans was moved around the ground and came outside with the soup. Once he left, and found children. As he pictured the group and walked around the village, pushing herself back to him. The way she wrote his dress and the with good man. The way she slipped his neck, it was just how the weapon would play and she had. What's her name is her? They call me Nancy. They call me Essie. And like that, it's a little friend. They walked all day. The swords on Essie's feet had no time to play. So soon were they broken. At times, the warriors would lay them tied to trees in the forest so that they could go ahead and survey the people of the new villages. At times, more people from those villages would be taken and added to the roof of them. The rope around Essie's waist had started to burn. A strange burn, like nothing she had ever felt before, like cold fire, the scratch of subtle wind, and soon, the smell of the that wind made Essie move. And she knew from stories she had heard that they were nearing Franconia. The traders slapped their legs to stick, making them move faster. For almost half of that way, they walked both day and night. They wanted to look people up from eating the biscuits, and to serving with their crowded people. Finally, once Essie's own leg was soon together, they reached the edge of some fancy building. They were all packed into a black and dark soil, and Essie had time to count on the group 85. Because people all together by road. They had time to sleep, and when they awoke, moved through a strange corridor that Essie had never seen before. She didn't like the taste of it, but she sensed that there would be nothing else but the warm ground. Soon, men came into the room. Some were the warriors and the world. Others were my son, you are welcome here. Fifi said when he saw Kwe approaching. Sit, eat. Summoned. The house girl came out with two bowls. She started to set one bowl in front of Fifi, but he stopped her with only a glance. You must serve my son first. Sorry, she mumbled, setting the bowl in front of Kwe instead. Kwe thanked her and looked down and followed. Uncle, you get enough oil and get sleep. You haven't destroyed our trade agreement. The company has the money to buy my cost, but you have to get it. You have to stop trading with the other company. We are giving it a free speech or not like before. But his uncle Fifi is always ignored him. The first man is the regular. They are wanted to go the bad trade administrator. He thought the sooner it could get the ship to agree, the sooner it would leave. That night, Badu had invited everyone to them as his company. He brought them enough wine and a protection to drown in. So was Aitera, an officer eager to encourage the ship, drank half a glass full of the own brew before it passed out and ran into country, shaking and vomiting and feeling to sweet spirit. Soon the rest of the men also returned the forest of Badu's frontier, vomiting, prospecting, or searching for a local woman to sleep with. Where waited for its chance to speak to Badu, sipping the show all the while. He had had only 2 cups of wine before Fifi approached him. Careful, Kwe, Fifi said, pointing at the scene of him for them. Stronger men than these have been brought down by too much drink. Kwe looked at the cup in Fifi's hand, his eyebrow raised. Water, Fifi said, one of us will be ready for anything. He motioned to Bible, who had fallen asleep in his low throne. His chin nestled down into the round flesh of his body. His belly, Kwe laughed. No one expects the other